Yeah, both players here with 12-3 record. You know, a lot of players with 12-3 records have drawn, and a lot of times you just end up getting left out in the cold if your tie players aren't quite good enough. If they draw here, there's a chance one or both of them miss. So they have opted to play here, and the winner is going to be maybe first seed at 13-3.
Yeah, based off these draws, 39 points, that would be first seed. And Rice on the play with Noble Hierarch off of Cavern of Souls. Buchholz, Urza's Mine.
Multiple Cavern of Souls here. That actually allows them to play through Chalice of the Void, so Cavern of Souls is pretty good here. Chalice of the Void is not that great against humans, but sometimes it does lock you out of your 1s or 2s, and you need either Cavern of Souls or Aether Vial to get it done.
Speaking of Chalice of the Void, that's all that he has. Meanwhile, he's getting attacked by Mantis Rider. He's already at 16.
Well, you say it's all he has. He already has 2 Tron pieces, though. If he finds that 3rd Tron piece, he can start casting some big old baddies next turn.
Yeah, things can snowball quickly. Eldrazi Tron definitely very scary when they have the natural Tron.
Yeah, but the Remington Rice's Humans deck can apply enough pressure in the early turns to make that a bit harder. Normally you have a little more time to assemble Tron. You don't need it as early as turn 3, but here Buchholz might need it on turn 3, or he could just be facing down too much pressure too fast.
Decision time for Rice. One of the cards in hand is Meddling Mage. Going to go with Thalia's Attendant, though, pump up the team.
That applies a bit more pressure. And if I'm Remington, I actually just have no idea what I would even name with a Meddling Mage. So, you know, I like the added pressure here. Plus, next turn, if he draws a land, he can maybe double spell and put that Thalia's Lieutenant up to like a 3/3, maybe even possibly a 4/4.
Attack for 5, put Buchholz to 11, and just a Matter Reshaper off Ghost Quarter, no Tron. And that Matter Reshaper's got nothing to do about that Mantis Rider.
Reflector Mage.
That gets even worse.
Yeah, that's coming down this turn more than likely. Remington's hand looks fairly stacked. I see a blue card. That usually means Phantasmal Image, which can be cast off the Noble Hierarch. I see Reflector Mage, Meddling Mage, just a number of tools at Remington's disposal, and this could be one of the quickest win-ins we've had here on the SCG Tour.
Yeah, there's Reflector Mage, pumps up the Lieutenant. Here's an attack for 7. Buchholz to 4. That's just a Mantis Rider hit.
Yeah, this is turn 4.
Pretty fast.
Pretty good.
All right, Evan needs something huge here. Redundant Urza's Mine is not it.
Yeah, and he has a card in the Great Creator, but not nearly enough mana to utilize it. I don't think anything he can play here can save him because that Mantis Rider does fly. And that'll be it for game 1 here between Remington Rice and Evan Buchholz. We're going to the sideboards already.
Took him nearly 3 minutes to close that game.
Just pathetic. You know, should have been 2 minutes. Just kidding, just kidding.
Good pacing, though. We're going to check out sideboards here for Remington Rice, our Humans player. Sideboard options. There's a Combo Consul Lieutenant.
That's more for like your anti-spells deck, like your instance and sorcery-based decks. Not really that good in this particular matchup.
Right, 3 Damping Sphere.
That can be decent at shutting down those 2-mana lands. I do expect Remington to bring it in here, though I do like his just natural game plan against the Eldrazi Tron deck. Reflector Mage is just really strong. You have flyers that go over the top, but you want to get some of the mediocre cards out of your deck. I think Meddling Mage in particular is not very good. It's almost always just going to name Walking Ballista, and they don't really have a good way to like tutor it up or whatever. So I'm not the hugest fan of it, but for the most part, you know, yeah, you have quite a few cards that can come in, and it is one of the ones that does slow them down quite a bit.
2 Knight of Autumn.
Knocks off Chalice of the Void, which can occasionally be problematic. Can maybe snipe an Expedition map in a weird spot. And you have to assume they're all playing Karn the Great Creator, and probably one is Staring Bridge, so you want some ways to interact with that bridge.
Sin Collector.
Not a whole lot of instants and sorceries, and it's not a true like duress effect. I don't think you want that one here.
All right, 3 Auriok Champion.
Has protection from red and black. Does not have protection from colorless.
Yes, not very large either. 3 Deputy Detention and 2 Dismembers.
I like both of these cards here. They act as spot removal for those large Eldrazi. The Deputy Detention noticeably does not give them much in return. The Dismember sometimes deals you some damage, but Deputy can knock off something like Reality Smasher without having to discard a card, for example.
Right, so for Buchholz on Eldrazi Tron, a lot of his stuff is this Karn the Great Creator sideboard. A bunch of artifacts there, but there are some options for actual sideboard cards. Right. 3 Island of the Void, not really a player here, but some options. There's 2 Warping Whales.
The warping walls are okay. They knock off some of these smaller creatures early on. There aren't a whole lot of other uses for it, but in a pinch, you can just make an Eldrazi spawn to kind of ramp you. So it's okay, but this isn't really the matchup for it, but I do expect it to come in.
Right. Do you board in the extra walking ballista?
Always.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I wish there were just all of them in the main, but I understand why you want the one in the sideboard.
All right, so this is a Modern tournament. We're on the verge of Modern Horizons launching, so things likely to get shaken up there. You want to get your hands on some of this product. There's pre-orders available. It's going to ship Friday, June 14th. That's coming right up here at go.starcitygames.com. So that's MH1.
Just 1 day short of Friday the 13th. My favorite movie when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah. I'm a horror head. Love me a good horror movie.
What's your current favorite horror movie? What's your favorite scary movie?
Probably The Void. The Void was rad.
Okay.
But over the last couple years, As Above, So Below. I really like that one.
The trailer for that movie gave me nightmares.
Yeah.
That's the level I'm
sick.
at. My favorite, I'm not entrenched in the genre. I did very much enjoy Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods was nice.
It's a fun movie.
It was like an homage to 80s horror while still keeping its own identity. I loved it.
Weird combination of parody and also seriously being a horror film.
Yeah, it was great. Especially the merman. He just bet on the merman every time, and then finally the merman got there.
That was a nice touch.
All right, both players shuffling up here for game 2. The winner of this match is going to be in the top 8 here, likely going to be first seed at the Invitational, going to be on the play in potentially all 3 matches throughout the top 8. A big advantage.
And that will be standard. Play can matter a little bit less there than in Modern, but still certainly a factor.
I mean, the play matters quite a bit if you're playing a deck like Mono Red. And I don't have these players' decks in front of me, but I have to imagine Remington it kind of looks like a Mono Red player. If he's playing humans in Modern, he likes to attack.
Sure. All right.
Buchholz, he'd probably command the Dreadhorde, would be my guess.
Sure. Got that soul read going.
I don't know. I just, in the dark.
Well, Buchholz will keep his 7-card hand on the play. It looks like Rice is going to 6.
Now, we saw a really strong start from Remington last game. A turn 2 Mantis Rider off of that Noble Hierarch. A couple of Caverner Souls to make sure that Chalice of the Void didn't affect him at all. And then also Thaw's Lieutenant and a Reflector Mage to back it up. And with these Eldrazi-tron creatures costing so much mana, Reflector Mage is fairly backbreaking. And one of the reasons, I think, is that humans kind of knocked it off the map just a year and change ago. And now we've seen it come back thanks to Karn the Great Creator, but is it enough?
We have seen Karn feel a little bit slow playing against humans throughout the weekend.
Oh, for sure. And I expect it to still be in the deck because if you have Tron, just being able to go get Ensnaring Bridge and cast it on the same turn is pretty huge.
So Rice did keep on 6. Evan starts us off with an Urza's Mine again. Horizon Canopy into Champion of the Parish is where Rice will start. He's at 19.
Yeah, any 1-drop is better than no 1-drop here for Remington.
Buchholz has Power Plant, so he's online to maybe have that turn 3 Tron.
Looks like he does have a Spatial Contortion in hand, so he does have a removal spell here for this first Champion of the Parish to keep it in check, but...
Second Champion shows up, Rice to 18, grows the first. Here's an attack for 2. See if he wants to contort that one.
Nope, that is an All Is Dust, pardon me. Oh, no, he moved it around. I was right.
He got you. Yeah, Contortion does hit. We'll see if Rice has a second land. Ooh, a big miss. He just has to pass.
Yeah, those 2 copies of Spatial Contortion coming in here out of the sideboard looking quite good.
All right.
I think that's what you said Warping Well was.
I mix those cards up a lot.
It's fine.
Apologies.
It's because they have the same mana cost and are both instants and see play in fringe colorless decks.
I honestly preferred the list of card names to the images.
Same.
Right, once again, no Tron, but Eldrazi Temple is the 3rd land for Buchholz.
Yeah, and Walking Ballista here for X=1 is going to function a lot like a Doomblade and take care of that Champion of the Parish. And with Remington stuck on 1 land, he might not have a follow-up play here.
Draws a spell and passes back.
And that's it. It's not over just yet. Buchholz really needs to close the door with a threat. Doesn't have it yet. Doesn't have Tron yet. Remington drew the land. Now he can start deploying 2 drops. Let's see what he's got.
Cavern of Souls is the land. He'll go to 17 to cast something. It's a Thalia's Lieutenant.
Not nearly as impressive when it's not putting a counter on a bunch of humans, but it can grow large rather quickly, kind of like a 2-mana Champion of the Parish. But Buchholz here draws a card in the Great Creator. Let's see what he goes digging for.
His hand looked to be largely reactive before this, but this Karn is a huge pickup. That'll go to 3. Or maybe he just keeps it at 5. That's interesting. He thinks about it. You know, the Thalia's Lieutenant can hit it for a fair amount of damage on the next turn. 2 humans or a second lieutenant pumps it to 3 right away.
Yeah, I kind of like ticking it up just to protect it from an attack. Next turn, if Remington doesn't have a really good follow-up, you can minus, go get something with all your mana untapped, basically, and you have a bit more information on what you want to get.
And this is likely a good draw for Rice. Find Seachrome Coast. That's a 3rd land.
What you think about maybe get liquid metal coating, start targeting your opponent's land so they're shut off on Remington's turn, and then you start ticking up Karn the Great Creator and blowing up those lands.
Yeah. Black dice on the card. A little slow going, but it could be effective. This 3rd land drop pushes that plan back a bit. We'll see what the 3-mana play is for Rice. Looks like there's a Deputy of Detention in hand. That's kind of inviting on the Karn, but he's going to go with Thalia Heretic Cathar.
Yeah, I do like Thalia Heretic Cathar here. It's quite a strong creature against these Eldrazi Tron decks if it's played early enough. Here, maybe the damage has already been done. If Buchholz is able to draw another Tron piece, the Urza's Tower, he's going to have access to a boatload of mana on the following turn. Maybe enough to go like Mycosynth Lattice and potentially shut Remington out the game.
So we're holding on the Lieutenant trigger. Buchholz is holding a Dismember in hand, maybe bluffing that it's a gut shot while we hold that trigger.
He's trying to, kind of go in his head on how much damage this Karn is going to take. It's going to take 2 down to 4 if he wants to not do anything about it. But I think he actually has a Dismember and an All Is Dust and is really looking to have an untapped land. Oh, he draws the Tron piece.
That is a lot of mana. Suddenly things looking very good for him.
Oh, my. He has a sideboard full of these powerful artifacts and colorless cards, and I'm really curious what this turn's going to look like. He has so many options at his disposal. He has a Dismember, so he can cast Dismember here before playing his land on the Thalia Heretic Cathar, which opens him up to having, 3, 9, 10, 11 if he casts an Eldrazi. 10 otherwise.
A lot of mana, a little bit shy of being able to All This Dust plus Mycosynth Lattice, which would be the ideal turn.
Right.
I believe 2 lands, Dismember All His Dust as the hand.
I mean, really the goal with the Karn the Great Creator is to get Mycosynth Lattice onto the battlefield, right? Now what he can do is he actually can go Dismember on the Thalia minus cast Myc. Oh, no. That doesn't work either.
Yeah, the Karn just gets attacked.
Right. I mean, you can't just play the land tapped, cast All His Dust for 7, and then Dismember whatever play Remington plays next turn, take up the Karn this turn, next turn minus Mycosynth Lattice.
And it looks like that is the line he's landed on. And given the pacing so far, it really feels like that's going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, if Remington doesn't double spell this turn, I think he's just getting colded by Mycosynth Lattice plus Dismember.
Karn's up to 5. We'll see what Rice can do about it. It's going to take 2 spells to beat that Dismember, though.
Yeah, and I think he's probably going to go for this Deputy Detention here because that Karn is really scary, and that's going to end. Ooh.
Mantis Rider, that's going to attack, but that's going to eat the Dismember. And this game I do not expect to go on much longer.
No, I think that Remington sees the writing on the wall, doesn't have a land to play a Noble Hierarch anything this turn to follow up, and that's going to leave him facing off a Mycosynth Lattice.
It's Karn down to 3. Yeah, the pacing on this turn quite a bit faster. Buchholz knows what to do here.
Yeah, he's been really keen on what to do over the next few turns, just figuring out the best sequence, right? And that will do it here. Evan Buchholz takes game 2. We're going to have a game 3 decider to see who makes it into the top 8 here at the Invitational.
All right, all tied up here. Humans on the play, though. As you mentioned, this is the deck that some time ago was what seemed to push Eldrazi Tron out of the format.
Right, but, you know, they don't have a ton of answers to something like Ensnaring Bridge, so if Buchholz has a really good draw featuring like a turn 3 card in the Great Creator into Ensnaring Bridge, that might be enough to buy him the time to take control with those more expensive spells. The Humans decks are pretty one-dimensional as far as how they play. You know, they do have some really powerful answers with things like Deputy Detention now, but for the most part, you know, they're just play creatures, attack, and block, and occasionally cast Melee Mage naming something.
Yes. Spatial Contortion, we saw that slow things down a little bit in the post-sideboard games. Rice's hands being non-functional. That's also something that we saw work out for Buchholz there. But against a fast hand, sometimes it feels like the Tron deck does need to have that Tron on turn 3.
Occasionally, and it's not as consistent at doing it as the green-based Tron decks because it doesn't play Ancient Stirring or Sylvan Scrying or those Chromatic Star type effects. But it does have Eldrazi Temple, and so sometimes you just get to cast like a Thought-Knot Seer early on, and that helps you fight off like the combo decks. So this isn't a true Tron deck. It's more of a colorless Eldrazi deck that just happens to play Tron, and when you do assemble it, your deck goes bananas.
If you're a fan of Signature Spellbook Jace, there's good news. There's another spellbook on the way. Signature Spellbook Gideon. It's going to be 15 unique cards in the name of everyone's favorite white planeswalker.
Yeah, and notably also one copy of Rest in Peace, one of those really powerful sideboard cards, has been getting up there in price lately. So nice alternate art version of that in the Signature Spellbook along with a bunch of other cool stuff.
We have pre-orders. They are live. They ship Friday, June 28th. You can find those at go.starcitygames.com/SS2.
I got to say, the storytelling on the cards in Gideon's Spellbook also really cool. Ties into that War of the Spark storyline where Gideon ultimately sacrificed himself to save Liliana from Nicobolus. Touching.
I really liked the release of this product. The announcement was great. The War of the Spark had a really nice execution on preview cards where this product was announced when we found out that Gideon sacrificed himself to save Liliana, and we got that Rest in Peace.
And if you're like, oh, spoilers, well, there's a card called Gideon's Sacrifice, so, you know, get out of here.
They laid it on pretty thick.
Yeah. So Remington here, going back to the drawing board, trying to figure out his last sideboard slot or two. This is an all-important game 3 between these two pilots.
This is not just for top 8. As you mentioned, this is for the first seed in the Invitational.
Yeah, this is sick. This the winner of this match just has so much equity, not only cash value from just making it to the elimination rounds, but you know, potentially winning, making a trip to the Players' Championship. Just a ton on the line here between these two players. We do. That's Rob I saw it yesterday.
And the Players' Championship invite, that is the huge thing that we're bringing back this year. We know Joe Lissette's going to be there. We saw some players lock up their bids as well.
Yeah, the top 3 on the leaderboard put up pretty good weekends except for Matthew Dilks, but luckily no one in 4th through like 9th or 10th place had to put up a finish enough to jump Dilks. So Matthew Dilkson, Oliver Tomiko, and Abe Corrigan in that number 1 slot.
So this is what these players are playing for. Top 8, starting point is $3 grand. If they win the whole tournament, it's going to be 20. Talking about an invite to the Players' Championship. That is huge.
That's a lot of money. And even if you don't win, you still get 40 SCG points for 2nd place, 35 for 3rd and 4th. That could put you all the way up into the running to try to get in that at-large bid at the end of the year.
Oh, yeah. And those points, they can start putting you in the conversation or maybe lock up buys for the Season 2 competition as well.
Yeah, this is a lot on the line here for these two players.
Players looking at their opening hands here. Rice is going to send his back. He'll be on the play for the decider.
It's always a sweat when you're in a tight match, a lot on the line, and you take a mulligan on the play. Never feels good. Let's see if Evan does the same, and he does. Both players going to ship him back. You see the relief on Remington's face there with Evan shipping his 7 back for a better 6. Both players looking to have an explosive start here, coming out of the gate strong.
You got to admire the discipline to mulligan in a match with this much pressure.
Yeah, never mulligan.
It's really easy to convince yourself to keep a bad hand and blame variance.
Well, it's also easy to convince yourself to keep a bad hand when your opponent mulligans a 6.
Yes.
And a lot of discipline here from Buchholz, understanding the matchup, knowing that he needs to have a really great start here on the draw specifically. Something as innocuous as a Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, or even a Thalia Heretic Cathar early enough could be problematic. It's really slow him down.
When we talk about these non-rotating formats, these early turns are often what shapes the game. So your opening 6, you get down a card, but you want to make sure you start on the most powerful thing. Right, Rice has kept on 6. Buchholz is going to give it a think.
Yeah, this must be a really tight one for Buchholz. The scry might help, might give him reason enough to keep. But, with Eldrazi Tron, a 5-hand that has 2 Tron pieces and Expedition map is nutty. Two random lands in Eldrazi Temple, nutty.
This hand's got to be just 1 card off, right?
Right. And that has to be the case here because it's a real struggle for Buchholz. It's like we have a Matter of Shaper, 2 Dismember, Spatial Contortion, Basilisk Caller, but only 1 land.
Oh, these spells are so good. If there's lands on top, that hand could do it. But it is tough to keep.
Keep.
You get to scry.
And you're on the draw.
Oh, no.
You're going to slow the game down with that interaction. You have a couple of pieces of protection from the creatures. It's a really close one, and it's such a feel bad if you miss. But I think that draws like that in this particular situation are going to be the type that you want. You have multiple pieces of interaction early on to knock off the fast start from the opponent, and that gives you time on the draw with a scry to potentially find lands.
And it's so close in so many ways, right? If you change that land to Eldrazi Temple, I got to figure he's keeping that hand.
100%. This hand looks really good, though. 2 Tron pieces, scry on the draw. He could have turn 3 Tron, maybe a big Walking Ballista. Oh, he has the Expedition map, too.
All right.
Turn 3 Tron.
That could be what he needs. Rice on the play. No turn 1 action. Expedition map off of Urza's Tower.
If only Meddling Mage could name a Tron piece.
Right, there's Thalia. That doesn't tax enough against Tron.
No, for sure. Now, we're going to have a turn 3 Tron from Buchholz, and I don't think there's much that Remington can do about it outside of a land that taps for a colored mana that's not an Ancient Ziggurat and a Damping Sphere. Buchholz is going to go ballistic next turn.
Draw for Rice was Ether Vial. That's no help.
A little too late. But something like Meddling Mage could protect him from a Walking Ballista. He has a number of plays here at his disposal. But notably, no 1-drop means that his draw is a lot slower than it would normally be. And with Buchholz threatening a turn 3 Tron, this is not great for Remington.
It's a really tight spot and a really high pressure matchup. The thing about Meddling Mage in so many matchups where the mana development is just 1, 2, 3, 4, you get to name a card that matters. But once your opponent gets a 7 mana, they can often just 2 spell.
Right.
Anything big is going to win.
Yeah, even something as innocuous as a Matter Shaper throws a gum in the works because any creature you play that has doesn't have First Strike is just going to get brickwalled by it.
All right, so he lands on attacking with Thalia, Buchholz to 18, and he will deploy the Meddling Mage. We'll get confirmation on the name here. And Buchholz is going to go ahead and find Tron. The name was All Is Dust.
And that name's probably the one that completely destroys you the most. But Buchholz has a lot of hits here that are really devastating. He's going to be probably casting something like Dismember plus Reality Smasher this turn, and that is one heck of a turn 3 if you ask me.
All right, so we'll go his way. Starting point is he will assemble Tron.
Yeah, and notably, Buchholz You know, he has Tron, and he has a Matter Shaper, or sorry, he has a Reality Smasher, as well as that Dismember. So he has a pretty aggressive start. But normally when you have Tron, you want to be a bit more defensive. You want to have those big spells that ensure that the game goes longer so you have more time to utilize that excess mana. Something like Chalice of the Void here is actually not that bad because Remington doesn't have an Aether Vial in the battlefield. But that Thalia Guardian of Thraben is keeping him from playing 2 spells this turn.
Play his Reality Smasher pass. The Tron land lets him pay the 1 for the Dismember, so he's leaving that up.
Yeah, and you see he actually held back here with that Reality Smasher because he understands that he needs to be the control deck here.
We'll see how much pressure Rice can add. The hand did not look super aggressive on the previous turn.
No, it does have actually 2 copies of Mana Strider, if I'm not mistaken, which fly over the Reality Smasher. But that Dismember probably going to take care of this first one.
So that was the cast. He went to 19 off a Horizon Canopy for it. Buchholz will go to 14, casting the Dismember, but at least dispatches the Rider.
Yeah, you want to deal with it permanently, and even though you deal yourself 4 damage, I think that's worthwhile. But now Buchholz needs to be able to find something to do with all that extra mana. You have a Chalice of the Void and a bunch of lands. You cast it for X equals 1, 2, 3.
What's your read?
I do 3. Your opponent played a couple 2-drops. It's either 2 or 3. It's not 1. But that's going to unlock Remington's Aether Vials, and he might just start casting them next turn. And that'll eventually unlock the 2s and 3s that Chalice would shut down. So it's not going to be that effective no matter what he does. He really needs to have some big haymaker off the top, something to do with this 10 mana that he has access to. But right now I think I go for X equals 3 just to prevent something like Mana Strider, and then the Aether Vial, or also Reflector Mage, and then the Aether Vial will be less effective. It takes a little longer to get going.
So he'll tap 8 mana here. That's going to be a Chalice on 3.
Yeah, spending 7 because X plus 1 from the Thalia. Burn for 1, if you will. Well, that's a draw.
Is that Phantasmal Image picked up by Rice?
Yeah, Phantasmal Image, a nice one. Can copy Reality Smasher and get in for 5, at least threatening a trade for just 2 mana. I don't think he'll attack in with everything. Probably just the Phantasmal Image Reality Smasher. But just a pair of lands in hand for Buchholz.
If he has that second Mantis Rider in the Aether Vial, some pressure to cast that, right?
I mean, there is, for sure. Like, you want to get the Aether Vial active so that eventually the Chalice of the Void is negligible. But at the same time, you know, you can perhaps get the job done more quickly by just going for Reality Smasher this turn, because if he trades with his own, that means that you're starting to get in for 4 points over the next few turns.
He lands on Phantasmal Image, copies Reality Smasher, and is going to get aggressive. Attacks with the Smasher and the Thalia. And Buchholz takes the trade, so that 2 points gets in. A really nice attack. Buchholz is at 12.
That is such a heads-up play from Buchholz. Normally your first reaction would be to just get that Thalia off the battlefield, but it doesn't really make sense why he would attack with it unless he has an Aether Vial that he wants to cast this turn.
Yeah, that mana was constrained that way, for sure.
Ghost Quarter, the play here for the land. An Endbringer, now that's a big boy.
That is scary.
Now I'm curious, do you Ghost Quarter? I think knocking off the Horizon Canopy is okay. There's a chance that Remington is just kind of strained on mana. But I kind of like leaving the Canopy around for a little while just because it's going to deal your opponent a couple points of damage for casting stuff.
He ended up tagging the Canopy. The cost seems to be that with that Chalice on 3, you might have wanted to wait for a Cavern of Souls.
Sure. But Cavern usually is going to get the job done no matter what. You play it, name human, cast your either Mana Strider or Reflector Mage, and the damage is done, you know, even if you Ghost Quarter then. The Canopy now hitting it means that he can't cycle it if his hand's a bit anemic, so that's good.
All right, we'll see what Rice can do. Draws Damping Sphere. That one is late.
Yeah, but we have a game still. You can cast it for... Oh, no, he can't even cast it because of the Ancient Ziggurat.
Yeah, can't use it to cast non-creatures or to pay the Thalia attacks.
Yeah, unfortunate for him here. I'm curious what he's going to do. Might just go for one of those Aether Vials so you can potentially start ticking that up to 3 so you can get that Mana Strider active.
And once again, you're seeing Buchholz's trade with Reality Smasher paying off. Really good block, like you said. So here's Thalia's a tenant. Go to the Thalia and the Meddling Mage. So now Thalia is safe from the Endbringer, but the Lieutenant is not.
Yeah, and with the Endbringer being able to shoot something down and untap and play defense, I like Buchholz's position for sure. Whoa.
What we got?
Another Chalice of the Void. This time it can go on X equals 2. That's going to lock out everything that's not Vial, Noble Hierarch, other things until Remington's able to get that Chalice of the Void active.
Yep, that's Chalice on 2. Endbringer's going to pick off the Lieutenant.
Yeah, and now it's going to get to play defense and draw a card, and that's a huge swing for Buchholz here.
Yeah, you see it untap on Rice's turn.
And Remington just desperately at this point needs to get that Vial onto the battlefield. He's going to be really behind on cards by the time he gets to 3. Really needs to find something like Cavern of Souls off the top so he can get that Endbringer off the battlefield as quickly as possible.
Endbringer will draw a card before we go back to Buchholz's turn. Now in a pretty commanding position.
And you can see why cards like Damping Sphere are just kind of mediocre in this matchup because the damage is already done. You're drawing it way too late. If your game plan, if he had just cast an Aether Vial a couple turns earlier and now he draws Reflector Mage, he could have actually potentially taken this game away from Buchholz, even though Buchholz started strong with turn 3 Tron.
This is a big tap.
Oh.
Ooh, Ugin the Ineffable.
Oh. That's it? Tapped way too much mana for that.
He's going to use that to hit the Meddling Mage.
Yeah, we're going to get aggressive here. Minus on the Meddling Mage is going to unlock all his dust. Sure. As he paid 2 extra, it's fine.
Not a big deal.
Not a big deal. Doesn't have anything else to do with the mana. But the minus on the Meddling Mage not only unlocks all his dust, but allows him to attack with the Endbringer and also keep the Thalia on the battlefield, which is currently kind of locking down Remington's non-creature spells that he sided in.
Yeah, so the attack put Rice to 14, Endbringer untaps as we go back to Rice's turn. Vial up to 1.
Yeah, and it can still draw a card and block, so just Endbringer doing all sorts of work. One of the better cards out of Eldrazi Tron in this Humans matchup.
It can be slower to cast than the others, but on the table it is super high impact.
Looks like Remington has a question for one of the judges away from the table. We're not gonna get confirmation on what that question is because likely will not tell the spotter because that would give it away.
Right.
But we can speculate, right? He's got a few cards in hand that we know about. The Chalice of the Voids. It's possible he was going to ask about the Chalice of the Void trigger because the trigger policy has gone through multiple changes throughout the course of Magic's history. And Cavern of Souls is the draw. Oh, wow. What a draw. Cavern of Souls unlocking his creatures from the Chalice of the Void.
Yeah, and Reflector Mage bounces the Endbringer. Buchholz is going to activate in response. Is it damage on the Thalia?
No, he pays one of the abilities on Endbringer is target creature can't attack this turn.
Oh, okay.
And he makes it so that Thalia cannot attack. I'm not sure I like that better. Oh, no, sorry. That actually protects the Ugin for a turn, which is a huge deal. But the Reflector Mage's ability means that he can't actually recast the Endbringer this turn. So unless he drew something else, which it looks like he didn't, that Ugin is probably going to get taken off the battlefield this turn.
Yeah, so he plussed it, so there's a card hanging out there. Suddenly, Rice is back in this game, but the Vial stuck on 1.
Yeah, I think he might have missed that trigger. I don't know if it's going to matter all that much, but that is a huge trigger to miss in this spot. Every little thing matters. Here comes a Mana Strider. I expect Mana Strider to go at the Ugin and then both creatures to go, other creatures to go face, simply to have fewer damage kind of being thrown at the Ugin while still making sure that it gets off the battlefield. Perfect information for Remington. He knows the Endbringer in hand, only 1 card. Everything else on the battlefield. Looks like he disagrees.
Yeah, sends 2 creatures at the Ugin. So that took it down. 3 damage comes across.
Buchholz here now with the Endbringer unlocked. It does have Summoning Sickness, so he can't activate it this turn. But if he gets it active again, he can protect himself from that Mana Strider.
right. Rice will activate the vial. See if he has something to put in.
My vial!
It's like Noble Hierarch. Buchholz is at 9. So it doesn't quite make the Mantis Rider connect in 2 hits.
No, but another Noble Hierarch, Athala's Lieutenant, does either of those pump effects.
Vial does now go to 2 on Rice's turn. And now he has a pretty good spread of creatures that tax the Endbringer some.
Yeah, and he did draw, I mean, he has the mana now to cast Damping Sphere as well, so he can actually shut down the huge amounts of mana generation, so something like Walking Ballista isn't just a tragedy.
Mantis Rider will exalt to 4, Buchholz down to 5, and Rice will pass turn.
Yeah, this is getting real tight for Buchholz. I would not be surprised to see him draw a card here on his own turn with the Endbringer.
Well, his hand is 2 wastes, so he's got to do something.
Right, he could just shoot down the Noble Hierarch and then still keep the Endbringer back to block.
Is that a Walking Ballista?
I think it is!
That is a huge draw off that Endbringer activation. How much
3,
mana is
6,
this?
8, 10, 11, 12. He's going to make a 6/6 Walking Ballista here.
Double Triskelion, you say?
And now you have to be wondering, why didn't Remington cast the Damping Sphere? This Walking Ballista is so much bigger than it would be.
There it is, Ballista for 6.
And now we get to untap the Endbringer as well, so potentially 7 damage spread around if he wants to. But he's going to wait till the upkeep, and that's because if Remington had something like Thal's Lieutenant, he would have gone ahead and cast and end of turn it, or played it on the previous turn.
Right, Endbringer untaps, Vial to 3. What can Remington Rice do to get out from under this Ballista?
I don't know. He drew another Noble Hierarch, which potentially could have been lethal.
Right, yeah. Yeah, if this Ballista wasn't here, that would be pretty good.
Yeah, this Ballista is gigantic, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger. Buchholz can just untap, use all of his mana, dumping it into that Walking Ballista, put more counters on it.
He'll cast the Noble Hierarch. Endbringer is going to say Mantis Rider can't attack.
I like this because he doesn't want to expunge all of the counters on Ballista just yet.
Yeah, once he goes to his turn, he just has 3 activations to put it up to a 9. That's the floor for what his next turn looks like.
Yeah, I have to imagine that Rice is going to play the Damping Sphere now, though. Chooses not to. This is uncanny.
So we're going to go to Buchholz. Karn the Great Creator is drawn.
What an amazing set of draws from Buchholz here.
Right, he casts the Karn. He's going to go a wishing right away.
All right, he has plenty of mana here to pay the extra 1. It looks like he may have missed that at first, the judge correcting them there. But he gets to go get Mycosynth Lattice, and now gets to effectively shut down everything from Remington Rice's side of things. He can keep the creatures from attacking the Karn pretty easily with the Walking Ballista activations. All right, so he's going to actually Walking Ballista here. He's going to start knocking off some of these creatures, I believe.
All right, looks like there's a stop. Don't believe he paid the Thalia tax on the Lattice either.
Yeah, he still has enough mana to pay for it and put a counter on the Ballista. I don't think that this is any sort of malicious or anything like that.
Yeah,
just
he's not shy on mana.
Yeah, just so much stuff happening all at once, you know, and this is a high pressure situation.
Yeah, no kidding. And this is off a game where he mulliganed to 5 with thousands of dollars on the line.
Yeah. So we have everything sorted out here. A bunch of creatures can potentially attack, but we have enough counters on all these to start shooting them down.
Yeah, Ballista goes to work. Mantis Rider down. We'll go to Rice. He can no longer tap his lands for mana. Can't use his Ether Vial. Can't use his Hierarchs for mana. He's going to concede. And Evan Buchholz That's going to make him the #1 seed here at the Season 1 Invitational.
What a match. Buchholz with 2 key